Andrea Yates, a mother, once called 911 and calmly admitted she had just killed all five of her children. And when police asked why, her answer horrified the entire country. On June 20th, 2001, Andrea Yates waited quietly inside her Texas home for her husband to leave for work. The moment he drove away, the house became silent. Five children were still inside. The oldest was 7 years old. The youngest was only 6 months old. Then Andrea walked into the bathroom and filled the bathtub with water, one by one. She carried her children into that room. She held them underwater until they stopped breathing. Some were too young to understand what was happening. After everything was over, Andrea placed the children's bodies together inside the house. She calmly called 911 herself and waited for police to arrive. When officers entered the house, the children's bodies were still inside, and Andrea immediately confessed. But what terrified investigators most was the way she explained it. Andrea had become completely consumed by religious delusions. She believed Satan was no longer just a symbol of evil, but an actual force controlling her thoughts and corrupting her family from inside the house. Andrea believed she had become a bad mother in the eyes of God. And because of that, her children were now doomed spiritually. In her mind, the older they grew, the more evil would poison them too. She reportedly became obsessed with the belief that her children would eventually suffer eternal torture in hell because of her sins. And after her mental state completely collapsed, Andrea convinced herself there was only one way to stop that from happening: kill them before Satan could take them first. Doctors later revealed she had fallen deep into severe postpartum psychosis and extreme religious paranoia. Her thoughts had become so detached from reality that she genuinely believed what she was doing was an act of protection. Diane Downs. Diane Downs came speeding toward a hospital in a blood-covered car. Inside were her 3 young children. One was already gone. The others were critically injured. Diane told police that a stranger had stopped her car during a roadside carjacking and suddenly opened fire on the family before disappearing into the darkness. America instantly sympathized with her, but detectives slowly noticed something strange. While her children fought for their lives, Diane smiled during interviews. She laughed casually with reporters, and emotionally, she seemed oddly calm about the entire situation. Then, another detail changed everything. One of the surviving children, Christy, slowly recovered enough to speak. And according to investigators, she revealed something horrifying. Christy said there was no stranger on that dark road. She claimed the person who pulled the trigger was her own mother. According to prosecutors, Diane had become obsessed with a man who didn't want children in his life. Her family had become an obstacle standing between her and the future she wanted. The jury found her guilty. She was sentenced to life in prison, plus additional years behind bars. But even after being convicted, Diane continued insisting she was innocent, and decades later, she still claims a stranger was responsible for the attack that night. Leonarda Cianciulli. Have you ever used handmade soap before? Well, in 1930s Italy, there was a woman whose homemade products became infamous for a horrifying reason. Her name was Leonarda Cianciulli. To neighbors, Leonarda seemed helpful, friendly, and deeply religious. Women often visited her house because she promised to help them. Some were looking for jobs, some wanted marriage opportunities, others simply trusted her advice, and Leonarda always acted kind. But then people started noticing something disturbing. The women who entered her house never seemed to come back out. Years earlier, Leonarda had become obsessed with curses and superstition. According to reports, a fortune teller once warned her that all of her children would die young, and sadly, many of her pregnancies ended in miscarriages or the deaths of infants. Out of 17 pregnancies, only 4 children survived into adulthood. So Leonarda became extremely protective of the children she had left, especially her favorite son, Giuseppe. Then World War II began, and when Giuseppe joined the Italian military, Leonarda became convinced he was going to die. She believed the only way to protect him was through human sacrifice. So investigators later said she began luring women into her home one by one. She would offer them wine, gain their trust, and then kill them inside the house. But the most horrifying part came afterward. Leonarda later confessed that she cut up the bodies, used caustic soda to dissolve parts of them, and turned some of the remains into soap and tea cakes. According to her confession, she even served the cakes to visitors. Eventually, police became suspicious after multiple women disappeared. Investigators traced one victim's last known location back to Leonarda's home. And once police questioned her, the horrifying truth finally came out. Leonarda openly confessed to the murders. She claimed she sacrificed those women to protect her son from dying in the war, a mother so terrified of losing her child that she became one of the most disturbing killers in Italian history. Lacey Spears. You've probably seen posts like this online before. A mother sitting beside her sick child in a hospital bed, heartbreaking captions asking people to pray, and thousands of strangers commenting things like, "Stay strong, praying for your son. You're such an amazing mother." That's exactly how people saw Lacey Spears. On social media, she looked like a completely devoted mother doing everything possible to save her little boy Garnett. She constantly posted updates about his mysterious illnesses. People felt terrible for her. Strangers sent gifts, money, support messages. Some even followed the child's medical journey for years online. But eventually, doctors started noticing something deeply disturbing. No matter how much treatment Garnett received, he never seemed to get better. In fact, he kept getting worse in ways that didn't make medical sense. Then, hospital tests revealed something shocking. The child's sodium levels were dangerously high. Not just unhealthy, medically unnatural. At first, doctors believed there had to be some rare hidden illness causing it. But every explanation started collapsing. Nothing explained why the sodium spikes kept happening. Hospital staff had started closely monitoring who was around Garnett before his condition suddenly worsened. And according to investigators, the sodium spikes kept happening shortly after Lacey was alone with him. Doctors became so suspicious that they restricted her access inside the hospital. And after that, the mysterious sodium spikes suddenly stopped. Police later concluded that Lacey had been poisoning her own son with dangerous amounts of salt. People who once called her a loving mother were horrified.